Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Uncanny JMen. I'm Josh,
I'm Jade.
and today we're going to be talking about the recent Miss Marvel trailer that just released yesterday as of the time of this recording. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick this off.
Yeah, so I have broken down the trailer into a lot of components here, and we're going to kind of go over each piece separately, talk about what we think is going on in them, whether there's some theories going on, or just pointing out certain aspects of the trailer that we found interesting or that may foreshadow something that will happen during this TV show that's going to be airing in the summer. So to start off with, we're going to basically going chronologically through the trailer. First thing we've got is the notebook for our main character. So in there we see the flying pig with a little space helmet on it. I recognize that from comic books. I don't think it's going to play anything in the movie besides just some doodles, but we do get to see that, as well as the Ant-Man versus Man-Ant, kind of starting off showing how Kamala is a big superhero fan and is going to really be leaning into that as part of her character. There's also of note that we see like comic book frames and comic book style whenever she's kind of narrating about her life and daydreaming. So I don't think that's going to be a big part of the TV show. We're going to have a lot, but it is going to be maybe part of the show to just kind of like background or whenever she's daydreaming or before she's really the superhero.
Yeah, and I agree with that. You see in this trailer that at the beginning of it, when she's narrating her life from the point of view of just a normal everyday girl, she sees her life through the lens of a comic book. But then once she gets the power, that whole comic book feel, that aesthetic, it disappears. And so it's like before she gets her powers, she views her life ideally from this daydream idea of a comic book. But then when her powers actually arrive and it becomes real for her, it resorts back to a more realistic type of feel.
Definitely. The next thing we have is a quick thing I wanted to note is the camera kind of slides past this, but we do see a world history book on her desk. And as we'll see throughout this trailer, she may be traveling to a different place in the world, and also where we see a little bit later on, we see some like ancient chest that she gets. It may be related a little bit to what they are studying. A lot of times they like to do that in shows, is foreshadowing, where it's gonna be like, here's the history of such and such, and then we see her interacting with the history of that location. Next, we see her in school being made fun of a little bit by some cool kids, we'll call them, about her love of the Avengers. And she's got this shirt on that shows three Avengers, three ladies of Avengers. We got Captain Marvel in the middle, and then it looks like Wasp on one side, and I'm unsure on the other one. Josh, what do you think about that one?
I'm leaning towards Valkyrie. It's clear that this is a female lineup, and the outfit that she's wearing with the cutoff sleeves and kind of a muscular arm, it really does look like it leans more towards Valkyrie than any of the other female characters I can think of. So that's what I'm leaning towards at this point. And I like how they're all wearing glasses, so it's like academic meets Avengers, bringing them into Kamala's own life.
Yeah, and what's also interesting, there is merch. There is superhero merch for Wasp, Captain Marvel, and I guess maybe Valkyrie. Where they are now known people in the MCU. They are celebrated. They've merched for them. They got someone on their marketing team that's selling it for them.
It really goes to show that the events at the end of Avengers Endgame, the world knows about what happened. They know the people who are involved. Because if you look at Wasp, she was significant in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but that was a very secretive type of scenario. At the end of that movie, she snaps out of existence and doesn't return until the very end of Endgame, where she's a part of that battle. But she hasn't done anything since then. So that's really all the world could know her about. And here she is on a shirt. So it shows that the characters that were significant then are known.
Exactly. And again, really emphasizing the fact that she is a superhero fan. Just like all of us, we might have a lot in common with this character. Next part in the trailer we see is an introduction of her close friend and convenience store employee, Bruno.
which I would happily talk about, but I don't talk about Bruno.
So we see him at what we find out later is the Circle Q, to be reminiscent of a real life restaurant, not restaurant, store, but its own brand. And then we see here what looks like a homemade Captain Marvel space outfit when she's got that visor helmet on that helps her with her breathing and everything. It cuts from that to her in school daydreaming. And the reason why I wanted to point out this specific scene is because it's zooming in on her, but the entire time I'm just watching those sneakers bounce. They're in frame, they're not blurred, they're close, they're right there. It makes me feel like there's someone sitting behind her that we know, whether it's someone introduced in the show, a friend of hers, or it could be a person that they don't want to reveal yet, but they're showing us, or it could just be product placement. You never deny that there's product placement in TV and movies. So it could be any of those. I just thought it was interesting. The next two images go together. So we see Kamala going into what looks like an attic or some storage space and opening up this ancient looking chest there. And that's where she gets her bands. We don't know if this attic space is her attic, if it's a friend's attic, if it's the convenience store attic or storage space. We don't know where this is. We just know that she goes in there for some reason. Whether maybe she hears noise or something calling to her. They love doing that calling thing that she's being brought to these bands. But we see her go in there, open it up, and that's where she gets her bands. Then it kind of jumps to a scene. It looks like she's wearing the outfit that we saw earlier of the Captain Marvel, like homemade kind of outfit. And she's putting on these bands. We see them light up and they are like energized. And these bands, I'm thinking are one of two things. They're either quantum bands or nega bands. I definitely am leaning towards one side, but we'll see that a little bit later in the trailer when we kind of like actually pretty soon when I relate to why I think it's one over the other due to some interaction that happens in this trailer. Those bands go on, her eyes light up. It's showing that energy coursing through her, inside of her. We've seen it before, but yeah, she's got that power now. It's not just the bands projecting energy from her bands, it's part of her.
And I think this is really significant. We've seen the eyes light up as a real focus for two other heroes when they got their powers. And it's Captain Marvel and it's Monica Rambeau at the end of WandaVision. In both those situations, it was kind of a cosmic power source that was being brought into them. So it kind of alludes to these three heroes being connected by kind of the source of their power and kind of a link there, which makes sense since we know that the three of them are going to co-star in the upcoming The Marvels movie that'll be coming later. So it does show that connection to Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau right from the get-go.
It's a very good point. Yeah. We can see, so when she put on those bands, she's at I'm gonna call it the Avengers dance. It looks like our school or some like large group convention. It's some kind of Avengers themed get together with a bunch of people there's like an Iron Man, there's a lot of people there. I see a Captain America shield. So it's some Avengers thing. She puts these bands on. We're not sure why she does, if it makes her outfit better, if she sees something going on and she puts them on. We don't really know why she puts them on. But what's interesting is she puts them on, her eyes light up, and then at some point we see her falling backwards, kind of going through the ground. And when she comes back up, she's in this like purplish light. It doesn't look like the same location or the same people around her necessarily. And this is why I'm leaning towards, instead of the quantum bands, these being the nega bands, because one famous feature of the nega bands is the ability to travel between the normal realm, the current dimension, and the negative zone. So it's possible, and my theory here is that this is the negative zone, that she's flipped into this negative zone by putting on the nega bands, and that will play a bigger part in time to come. And who knows? I mean, there's some great villains that use a lot of negative zone motifs and utilize it to a lot of their nefarious deeds. So we could see some big names coming out later if they do introduce the negative zone here.
Yeah, and this isn't just a situation of the people around them are being viewed in a different way. At least we don't think so. Looking at the people in the background here versus at the party, they don't look like they're in those same costumes. Some of those things that stood out, like a person in a puffy Iron Man replica outfit, that's nowhere to be found in the background anymore. Captain America's shield, that would be something that stands out even if in a different color palette. That's not here anymore. So it definitely looks like it is somewhere else, something completely different.
After that, we see her in her room, and she is surrounded by Captain Marvel memorabilia. So not only is the Avengers known, but Captain Marvel has a ton of merch that she is obsessed with. Captain Marvel's got it everywhere. So not only does she dress as her, but she's obsessed. And Captain Marvel is a well-known hero. Lots of stuff for her there. And we see Kamala here using her powers for the first time. Her hand lights up. She's got those bands on. I think that's important to note. She's got the bands on and she's in bed. So my thought here is that she puts those bands on and cannot figure out how to get them off. Maybe she does later on, she gets them off, but I'm thinking that she's stuck with those bands for a significant period of time in this movie, if not the whole movie, after she puts them on herself.
And it's significant here that we can see her powers for the first time. They're different than they are in the comics. In the comics, she has the ability to do something called embiggening, where she can make different parts of her body bigger for various reasons. But here we see with this band that's around her wrist, she now has kind of a more cosmic related ability. So whether that's cosmic energy creation, cosmic energy manipulation, it seems like it's more separate from herself. So this is significant, being that difference from the comics. And there's some potential reasons behind this. One being, it brings her to more of a connection to Captain Marvel and to Monica Rambeau in the source of her powers. In the comics, she doesn't get her powers from a cosmic source. She gets it from internal, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, this gives her more of a connection to the people that we know she's going to be connected to later in the MCU. But also, the MCU has already talked about bringing the Fantastic Four in at some point. We don't have a release date for that, but we know that they're coming. Mr. Fantastic, his ability to stretch is very similar to Miss Marvel's ability to embiggen. So having two characters introduced fairly close together or potentially within the same general time frame of movies, it makes sense to give one of them a little different of at least a source of her powers.
Yeah, and I mean, just to say, like, their powers are similar to the mass audience. I know that a lot of people are going to say they're not similar. That's similar. I mean, they're not when it comes to what their abilities are in the comic books. In beginning, it lets her stretch her body, make it larger, change her, like she can be like kind of morph a little bit, like change her appearance. She can shrink even and everything. She can do a lot more. And her powers are like just strength involved there. There's a lot more that goes on with her powers. But to the general audience, that's not going to translate. So Mr. Fantastic and her will seem very similar. Granted,
Yeah.
as we'll see throughout the trailer, a lot of the stuff that she would do with embiggening, so for instance, closing the door, as we see her do, that would have been in the comic books, a hand stretching out or a fist or something, reaching out and closing the door. Same thing is resulting here. So we are just seeing an adaptation, the same results, the character is the same, powers are different. I'm reserving judgment on whether it's going to be that bad or that good of a change, but I'm not that opposed to it. We'll see what happens here. And also see in the trailer, there's one very interesting picture that you'll see in a moment that might hint towards other things happening too. After that scene in the bedroom of her closing the door, it cuts to the Circle Q that we know Bruno works at and that they may have a little bit of a base out of for a little bit for crime fighting or whatever she does early on. We see it blow up. I don't think this is an accident. I don't think it's Kamala like using her powers and blowing something up by mistake. This is a targeted. They targeted the Circle Q where Bruno works, where Kamala has been seen going into. In this next scene, there's a few of these next clips or screenshots are kind of out of an order than I would put them in when it's in the actual show itself. So I'm going to talk about them in chronological order as they showed up in the trailer, but they will reference each other as we move forward because they will kind of skip around a little bit. We see Kamala with gloves on now that are glowing, which kind of shows that she's probably getting an outfit wherever she is here with all this fighting equipment, swords, daggers. This looks like it might be like in Pakistan. It looks like she might go back to Pakistan. We'll actually see more proof of that later as well. But we do see some ornate jars above there that are more of that region's style, as well as a lot of these daggers are from that region as well. And we do see that her wearing more garb that may hint towards her being in that region as well. The next scene is we see, and this is an interesting one. So the energy projection that those bands provide her, which is basically what's happening, is like a crystalline energy projection as she thinks up and it happens. It shows her stepping across these platforms that she's created, almost like a stepping stones across thin air. This does relate to her powers. If it was in the comic books, it would be her legs stretching down to the ground. It equates, same result. It definitely is a different style, but it does make it work that way. So we see her walking along these, and it looks like she's in her new outfit, because in the next clip we see her still walking across those platforms, but she's sporting her comic accurate, got those ribbony scarf-like things in her outfit, running across them in the middle of the sky. And the next one is probably my favorite frame from this trailer. We see her jumping off of those platforms, about to slam something that's high up in the air. I don't know if that's like a robot or if that's a foreground thing and we're actually looking at her, or it's just there's going to be something edited in later. But what's most important here is look at those shins. Look at those hands, the forearms. Does that not look like Embiggening to you? Because that looks like Embiggening to me.
It definitely does. I'm so glad you pointed this out, because honestly, I've watched the trailer two dozen times at this point. I never caught this. So I'm glad you're pointing this out. I didn't see this at all. So I thought she just wasn't going to have this ability. This is a really neat vision, a really neat point right here, being able to see she is going to have some of that included.
Very possibly. I mean, it could just be an editing thing. It could just be, this is obviously the CG. This is not a person flying through the air. They put this in with CG. It could be one of those mid frames that they like to do to make it so that it looks more natural when put together. And I just happened to find that one frame that makes it look like Embiggening, but we don't know. In the next couple pictures here, we see what looks like the introduction of maybe a main villain, if not one of the villains. So we see a police line and these mysterious SUVs showing up. We see a man and a lady taking a step out. And then we see a further shot that has that lady. It definitely looks like the lady who's the most distinct there, that she is going to be one of the main bad guys, if not the main bad guy here. I'm not sure who that is. I'm gonna have to do more research and look into a little bit more. It's a redhead, so that does help narrow it down if I look into the comics again to who that might be. But that's definitely going to be one of the main characters when it comes to the villains of the story. And on the flip side, we've got four shadowy figures. What do you think of these four shadowy figures?
Oh, I've got so many potential theories for these guys. I love this image because we have no idea who this is. It could be nobody. It could be someone huge, and just the excitement of seeing them in the shadows in this misty background. Your imagination can run wild here. One possibility I do see. So in the comics, Miss Marvel gets her abilities from being an Inhuman. So Inhumans in the comics, they're individuals who got their powers because it's within them, it's in their genetics, it's been dormant for thousands or millions of years, but there's something called a Terrigen mist that can cause it to emerge. Well, this could be these people coming out of the mist. This could be introduction / reintroduction of Inhumans. I know that Marvel They did an Inhumans show previously, didn't do very well, and so they've kind of been pretending it never happened ever since. But this could be either that group being brought back in, finally allowing enough time to have passed to reintroduce them and see if they can kind of salvage that, or it could just be a reintroduction, a new group of Inhumans being brought into this show. They could have detected Kamala and they could be coming out now to join whatever's happening here. Another option, we know that Marvel will sometimes, I won't say lie, they will sometimes change trailers in order to keep things secret. It's possible that they're keeping these people in the shadows. They could have people standing in here. This could actually end up being 4 people we know, 4 people that are already in the MCU that are coming out and helping her. It could be an opportunity for her to meet some past heroes, some other MCU people that are already there. And this shadowy image that we're getting is foreshadowing that 4 people are going to be joining her, but they don't want to tell us who it is yet. And so that's why they're in the shadows. Could be just generic people with cosmic abilities that have experience with the powers. And my last possible theory, I don't think this is the way they're going to go, but there are 4 of them. And as we mentioned earlier, we know the Fantastic Four are coming at some point. What better reason would there be for changing her abilities than if Mr. Fantastic and the other Fantastic Four were actually showing up for the first time in this show? We know Disney has done that before. They've shown the willingness to introduce new characters or expand on a character and have them grow within a show to come back later on down the road in other movies or shows. So that is that possibility. Now, it does look like this is a 2 male, 2 female group, and the Fantastic Four have typically been 3 male and 1 female.
Yeah, I mean, so while looks like 2 men, 2 women, we mentioned that they do like to edit. These could just be stand-ins, and it is Fantastic Four. I like to lean towards that Inhuman side as well. We've got the Mist kind of thing going on. I would love for them to introduce the Inhumans as the Terrigen Mist is traveling around in a big cloud again, and they're following behind it. So Kamala might find those bands, but then go through the mist, get more powers, they show up. I don't know. I don't think that these are people that showed up in the Inhumans show that aired. It looks like new if these are the actual people that will be in it. But I don't know if it's a reboot of those people where if one all the way to the right is wearing a hoodie, it could be Karnak, but it doesn't look like it's the same stature as the person who played Karnak previously. So are they recasting those same characters, or are they just doing all new? We don't know. We don't know who these people are. We see one of them again later in the trailers, but it could be anything.
And the Inhumans being tied to mist, to the Terrigen Mist, we see mist or smoke or fog just littered throughout this entire trailer. So they're either alluding to that just to look back at the comics, or there very well could be an Inhuman link in this TV show coming up.
The next few we'll go through relatively quickly because they're all very related to each other. So we see a person running through what looks like woods or grass. I'm guessing it's Kamala. Not sure if she's running from or towards something. Normally it's towards or chasing after someone, but we never know. That shirt that we see in here, I don't actually see it anywhere else in the trailer, so I can't place it among other similar things here. Then we cut to, it looks like a celebration or a group of people traveling along a path. It looks like the previous one of running through the field and this one, as well as actually a majority of the rest of this trailer, looks like it's taking place in Pakistan. So my guess is Circle Q gets blown up. She blames herself for getting it too close to Bruno and friends, and so she kind of retreats, trying to take the heat away, retreats to Pakistan, and we see a portion. This same thing happened in the comic book, so it makes sense that it would happen here. She goes back to Pakistan, visits family there, stays with them, meets a certain someone, which we're about to see as well in the next scene. So we see the back of this figure, which we'll see a lot more clearly in the next picture, and we'll discuss who that is. But it looks like they're walking into some kind of hideout, which looks like it matches the decor from where we saw her previously with those gloves and all those knives and daggers behind her. So I imagine that was this person's hideaway. We see a better picture here, and that is very obviously Red Dagger from the comic books. Like exact costume. In the comic books is a person who she thought was a bad guy, but ends up being a good person, kind of more like Robin Hoodie, I would say, a kind of good guy, and learns a lot about being a hero from him. So we see a sunny cold drink, and we'll see that again in another frame further up. But it looks like she's trying to fight him in this train station, and he's got looks like a dagger that he's about to throw at her. So I think they definitely oppose each other at one point, and then they work together once they realize that they're both good people.
Marvel loves to have heroes fight each other. So the fact that they're fighting at this point really means very little as far as his alignment in regards to how movie handles these.
The next frame we see her using a giant fist, so it's very reminiscent of her Embiggen punching someone with a big old fist. And it looks like, again, this might be back in Pakistan at some celebration, maybe where everyone was walking to originally. But then what's interesting is that we see in the background, the figure who is all the way to the left in the shadow of that 4 people group is on the right side of this screen. We still don't see much about her, but she is there. And then on the left side, we have this character who we then see a little bit closer. I don't know who this is supposed to be from the comics, or is it a new character they've made up? I'm not sure. That's something that I'll definitely look into to see if I have more information on, look it up, but this is a character I'm not familiar with right now. Looks like probably the leader of the 4. I don't think this was a character that was included in the 4 that we saw earlier. Maybe it was, but she appears to be probably the leader of that group. Then we cut back, and it's again, I said it skips around a little bit. We're back in that train station. She's about to punch Red Dagger or someone. We see the exact same sunny cold drink in the background. This is her in Pakistan about to fight. It looks like she puts her mask on, but is still just wearing a sweater. So, and then what's interesting is that it cuts right from that and goes, now we're in a school, which means she probably went back to the States, or this is out of order. This is before she goes to Pakistan as well. Looks like we've got these 4 secret ops soldiers coming in. Obvious bad guy vibe out of these people, first of all. Going through her school, looks like they might have thrown a smoke bomb there, or, Terrigen Mist could be coming through the school. And they're hunting. It looks like they're hunting for someone, either Kamala, because maybe she put on her bands during the Avengers thing and they've got an energy reading and they're coming after her, or they coming after someone else, which is this next image. If we see here, we see the exact same people shooting at Kamala and someone else. She's protecting herself and this other person. Now, to me, maybe this is just my brain moving and saying everything's got to be connected, but that looks like Jimmy Woo.
It very well could be. You do see similar frames, so yeah.
It'd be great to have Jimmy Woo in another installment. It would be great to have him keep coming back and just connecting the dots between everything.
Yeah, I love the character of Jimmy Woo. Yeah.
He was looking after Ant-Man because he violated the Sokovia Accords. There's a new superhero in town. Might be the one that has to show up for it. So he might be talking to her when this all goes down.
And I do have a question about what exactly is going down here. What did she get drawn into? One possibility is that this could be, we know that Secret Invasion is coming down the line. We know that they've been filming that and they've been preparing it. We're seeing some promotional materials starting to leak out now. This could be her falling into seeing some of that edge of the Secret Invasion. It very well might not be, but we do know that there's a connection there. Secret Invasion is going to be led primarily by Talos and Nick Fury. They're going to be the leads there. The whole start of the Krees and those 2 characters together started in the Captain Marvel movie. Likewise, we know that at the end of WandaVision, Monica Rambeau gets whisked off to space by a Kree, by a Skrull that wanted to talk to her. So these scrolls from Secret Invasion, we see the link now to Captain Marvel and to Monica Rambeau, and knowing that those two, along with Kamala Khan, they're all going to be connected in the Marvels movie. It could be that these are all interspersed; they're all connected. So this could be her getting a little bit of a taste of things that are later to come down the line.
That would definitely be interesting to tie more of the shows to each other as they're coming out on Disney Plus.
Mhm.
And then we start wrapping it up. They pop out that title screen and they tell us it's coming June 8th, which is going to be just around the corner before we realize it'll be here. And I'm certainly excited week by week to go through this. Miss Marvel has been one of my more favorite comic book series to read in the recent years, as it's a more newer as far as characters go.
But yeah, so much newer than everything else that they've been
Yeah,
putting out there in the MCU.
really fun character. I'm excited for this show to come out.
Definitely.
And then they hit us with this, which like basically just give us the comic book cover.
Yep.
Got her new
Like,
shiny outfit sitting on that lamp, looking over the city. It's a
yeah,
wonderful final shot.
the iconic scene that when you think of Miss Marvel, this is what you think of. Yeah.
And that is the whole trailer. Not as much as Doctor Strange to pick out and talk about. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be fantastic. We got a few things coming out before this one, but I am very much looking forward to seeing what Kamala has in store for us.
100%. I was excited for this to come out before. Now, after watching this trailer, it's difficult to have to wait these last few months before it comes out.
So I will definitely be doing more research on the characters that I'm unfamiliar with before the next trailer comes out, because we know there's going to be another trailer. We'll give you another breakdown, another discussion, and maybe we'll know a little bit more about those characters as well.
All right. So, what do you think? Did you see anything in the trailer that we missed? Do you think we're close on some of these theories? Do you think we're way off base? Let us know in the comments down below. And we look forward to the next trailer and showing you what comes next. Thanks for watching.